Welcome to the Leaders in Payments podcast, where we talk to C-level leaders from across the payments landscape. We'll be discussing the products and services that impact the payment space today, as well as trends and predictions for the future of payments. We will also hear stories from our guests about their journeys to the top.
Hi, Monica. Thank you for being here and welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. Great to be here.
Great to have you. So this is our first of our 4 episodes in March on diversity, equity, and inclusion. And as many of you know, Monica was on the show back in late January. It was episode 294. So to learn more details about the company and the industry and Monica's professional journey, I suggest you go back and listen to that episode. So today we're going to talk a little bit about you and the company, and then we're going to dive in to the meat of the conversation, which is about Lift, a program that Monica helped found. So before we get into that, Monica, just could you give our audience a brief overview, maybe of a little about yourself and your professional journey, and then, of course, about Chargebacks911?
Sure, absolutely. So a little bit about myself. I've been with the company from the very start. Started out in technology, like many of us, kind of fell into that role, was a merchant, and then developed a solution to solve chargebacks because I couldn't find a solution. Frankly, it was either that or go out of business. And needless to say, I discovered, you know what, this is actually even a larger opportunity. There's chargeback problems all over the world. So fasting forward, that was in 2011. And now we don't just solve chargeback problems for merchants. We have a full-fledged, unified technology platform. And we serve many of the world's largest financial institutions. We operate in 87 countries, have locations in the US, in the UK, in India, as well as Singapore and Brazil. And we're expanding, about 350 employees worldwide, just over 2.5 million merchants on our platform, and I think around 51 FIs. So large problem to solve, lots of challenge, lots of technology, but something about me, I love a good challenge, and it motivates me to consider we can do some good in the world to revolutionize this type of product.
Great. Thanks for sharing that. I really appreciate it. So today we're going to take a deep dive into a program that you started called Lift, Elevating Women in Fintech. And I'm just going to read the official description. Lift is a mentorship program for women pursuing careers in finance, technology, and payment sectors. Participants can seek professional advice, career guidance, and industry insight from an impressive list of female C-suite executives, including those from Microsoft, UK Finance, and Findexible. The mission behind the free initiative is to bridge the gap between established women in the fintech industry and those who are still trying to find their way, ultimately helping create a pipeline for females in fintech. So now that I've read the official description, in your own words, tell us about Lift.
This is a program, as you read it, this is really a culmination of a lot of conversations that I had with women that I work with, and also looking at my own career path. I never really had a woman as a mentor. In fact, I didn't have the greatest mentors to start. I ended up finding great mentors, and that made such a difference in my career path. And it really gave me a lot of confidence, motivation, pointed me in the right direction. And I've just seen so much amazing opportunity out there that I thought, actually, I want to create a grassroots foundation and effort that really helps connect mentors with mentees and create it at a level where I take people that have clearly figured out how to climb that corporate ladder and create a level of success, and then connect those individuals with women that are aspiring to excel. And they would just like to talk to another woman and find out, hey, what did you do different? What should I do? And really just kind of bridge that gap.
You sort of answered this, but I wanted to see if there are kind of more reasons. But why? Obviously, you saw an opportunity or something missing in the space and you created this. But were there other reasons that you created it beyond just that?
I have a program that I started in 2013, another not-for-profit called Paid for Grades. A little different, focused on underprivileged high school kids, but it's really close to my heart. And I have to say, as a business owner, as an entrepreneur, you can't help but want to solve problems. And that comes with taking more responsibility. And so, when I first started this business, then I was recruiting a lot of these high school graduates and even high school dropouts. And what I saw is the biggest problem was actually their confidence in themselves and their ability to see what they were really capable of. And I myself, I don't have a college degree. I actually don't really have impressive accolades. But you know what? I created my own self-worth. I work harder than anybody else that I know. I don't quit. I'm tenacious. And I believe that I have the ability to learn anything as long as I put my mind to it. And I've been super fortunate in being able to find like-minded individuals, and the power of a team. You actually can do anything in the world. And so when I look at what we were able to create with that grassroots effort with the Pay for Grades initiative, and we took high school kids and then gave them an opportunity and really just built their confidence, because these guys are super smart. They're basically writing code, but they're getting D's in class and thinking they're going to drop out and work at Burger King for the rest of their lives. But no, they're some of the smartest developers. And now it's exciting for me to see, hey, Elon Musk doesn't care if you went a traditional route. If you're smart and you know what you're doing and you have the confidence to succeed, you can succeed. There's so much more opportunity now. I disagree with the belief that you can't have it all and there's not enough opportunity. There is 100%. So now getting to Lyft, well, guess what? The same type of problem actually happens, and it has a tendency to target women and women that are advancing in their career. But I saw the same type of indicators where I would see I have these amazing women that work in our organization, but the confidence isn't there. I meet people at different organizations, and there's a lot of emphasis that's put on self-esteem. Self-esteem is something I believe that you only earn from others, and it's all about what others perceive of you. And oftentimes women take on this mentality because of tradition, etc., of being people pleasers. And that doesn't mean that you have confidence in yourself. It means you're really creating confidence just by what other people say. That's not very strong in the corporate world. And that's not something that you can build a career with. And really what it takes at the end of the day, you have to develop grit and you need to develop self-worth. And I think it's less about things being a man's world, and it's more about pushing back on some of the traditional fixed mindsets that accompany, the sexes, and actually challenge that and really partner women that are pursuing a career with those who have been successful. Because I guarantee if you talk to a C-level executive, you're probably going to find there's plenty of women who are just like me. You know what? We have families. We have great relationships with our kids. We find time to go to soccer games. We also can run a business. We also have a great personal life. You can have it all. And the philosophy of, hey, if you have a role, I guess, as a woman, then you're going to have to work here. You're going to have to make less. You have to sacrifice something in order to have something less. I think I'm interested in challenging that mindset, because I don't think that's true. And I think Lyft is really a platform to help bridge that gap and really inspire others that can hopefully pay it forward and create even a larger, more positive effect.
What would you say is the main thing you've learned from launching this initiative?
Probably the biggest thing that it's always the case I think even with any business, with anything, right? You set out a goal, and my goal was, I really wanted to create a positive influence. But probably there's a couple things actually. So one thing that I've walked away with is just the incredible reward in being able to help someone else, and also learning from others when you think, man, I thought that I already had this figured out. I thought I already knew this. I'm an expert. And then you listen to some of these stories and you talk to different women at different areas, and you're like, you know what? Actually, I needed to be a bit more humble. Actually, I have more to learn. And that's encouraging. You never want to be in a place where you think you already know everything and you have nothing to improve upon. And there's lessons to take away from, I think, every walk of life, and especially from speaking to others Sometimes I find myself really inspired by the sheer ingenuity and humility of people that are asking me for advice. And I'm thinking, you know what? Actually, walking away from this experience, I'm the one that should be thanking you for your inspiration and motivation and helping me see areas that I can be a better impact and that I can be a better person and influence more. And then the second is it's been great, of course, to see some of the network effects of bringing people together. Also, just taking into account some of the success stories. And then also realizing, as much emphasis as there is in creating a more diverse movement, making sure that there are mentorships, that women are seeing other women leadership. And, it's not just about women, it's really the whole diversity movement. I think the world has made so much progress over the last decade from when I started this business, but then also approaching the reality that, we still actually have a pretty long ways to go because there still are so many stories that I could tell you of women that I've talked to that it's like crazy. I'm thinking, are you kidding me? How can you have this mindset in 2024? This is something that I should be listening to this conversation as a woman that I'm talking to from the 1900s. And I mean, it's nuts. So yeah, it's like I've told myself, there's this problem to solve. I know that it's this big. This is what I'm going to do. And then it's like, oh my gosh, it's actually like there is still such an issue with some of the mindsets and obstacles and lots of opportunity to improve across the board, I guess.
Right. And what we're talking about this month is obviously diversity, equity, and inclusion. And this is just a component of it. But I think, as you well know, the more diverse a workforce, the more diverse a board of directors, a leadership team, there are research reports that prove that the more diversity, the better the company performs overall. And there's metrics that can be used and all that kind of stuff. And I feel like one of the reasons I wanted to highlight this is because I think these kinds of programs and kind of the way you articulate it about empowerment and mindset, I mean, that's not just like women, that can be anyone in the workforce. And when you talk about inclusion and diversity, I feel like part of that is you've got to bring your whole self to work. But you have to be confident, right? You have to have that confidence that you can be successful. I think that's a huge part of it. So you kind of gave a good segue into the next question is like, if you step back and you look, and you've been in this payments fintech ecosystem for a while, when you look at diversity, equity, and inclusion, do you feel like we're making progress? We have a long way to go. We've got a little ways to go. I mean, kind of what's your view on the bigger, kind of broader environment that we work in? On a scale of 1 to 10, are we at a 5 as an industry, or are we at a 2 and need to get to 5 just to say we're halfway there? Or are we a 7 and we've done a great job?
So I am like an eternal optimist unless it comes to targets and goals. And then I'm always like, you know what, but we can do better. So I would say we could do a lot better. So for example, you know what, we've done a great job on a top-down approach. And just like anything, you know what, you're only going to get halfway. So top down is putting pressure on corporate America, creating more recognition for success, mentioning there's lots of avenues now where a focus point is the benefits, as you were saying, with diversity, et cetera, totally dovetails into everything that is happening in payments technology. But you know where we can do a lot better? And I'd say we are actually pretty abysmal at this in comparison to the rest of the world. And I can say this because I spent quite a few years in the UK. So gaining that perspective, I've also spent a tremendous amount of time in India and really kind of getting a flavor of what goes on in the rest of the world in comparison to, all right, what can we do in the US? And then let's focus there first. And even in the UK, they can improve. I mean, we can all improve. But bottom line, so top down, that's corporate America telling everybody, hey, hire more women, make sure you have things more diverse. And like you said, it's not just about women. But bottom up, we're not doing very well. And I'll explain. So if you go to a primary school or elementary, right, then you're going to find that everybody is taking pretty much the same courses. We're definitely challenging tradition, I think, in those areas, but in different ways on the social parameters to create more diversity movements. Then when you get into areas like high school, secondary school, this is where there's a missing opportunity. So if you look at how do we create in payments and technology in some of the areas where we really don't have women that are participating here, and we don't have enough diversity. Now, the way that you create diversity is you have to expose people to an aptitude that they may not know they have. You have to challenge the status quo. So in other words, and I'll give you a personal example. If I never would have walked into a high school and confronted the fact that I couldn't take home economics, I couldn't take a sewing class, and I couldn't take fashion design, which, by the way, those were the only things I wanted to take. Instead, I had to take wood shop. I had to take programming and then another coding class because there was literally no other classes available. I don't think I would be here today. You know what I found in actually having to take those classes? I realized, you know what? This is not just programming and technology. You know, it's actually a form of art. It's creative. I'm good at it. I like math. I like to build things. I like to create things. I love this stuff. And you would have never convinced me to do it on my own, ever. Like playing the piano. Any person that plays the piano, I guarantee they did not do it because they chose to practice every day. It's because they were forced. And you know, you develop an aptitude and you have to expose yourself to understand if you have talents. Kids that learn how to play a sport, they don't know how to play it. They're not experts. You don't ask them, do you want to learn how to do this? Most kids would say no. They don't want to try something new. No, you get on the field and you say, this is what we're doing. And now we're going to start practicing. And at first they think, I can't hit the ball. And then they become an expert. This is what's missing in the bottoms-up approach that we do not have in this country. What we need to do is we kind of need to force our kids to be exposed to all of these STEM areas so that they have a chance to understand if they have the talent and if they have the aptitude, and they should be walking away from school with these core skills, and they aren't. And that is a travesty. And what I see us doing is focusing a tremendous amount of effort on top-down corporate politics, promotion, even penalties, making sure that you have diversity quotas. However, you know where this needs to start? It needs to start with our kids. Literally, it should be, why doesn't my 12-year-old have to take a coding class? You know, it should be, they are all taking coding. They are all understanding programming. Every single person from high school should not be able to graduate without understanding computer science. Look at where we are in the world. And it's actually, we don't know. And we're not allowing women to even be exposed to the talent and the aptitude that they may have, because at the age when they're most impressionable, they're not going to choose that. Of course, they're going to choose home ec. They're going to choose fashion just because that's the mentality. And so it isn't about making it cool. I disagree with, let's create this coolness concept. Let's see if we can sell everyone into choosing. Actually, the world is changing. We're in an environment now where to compete, this is actually part of our standard curriculum. This is as important as math. And literally, we have every person take art. And if you think about it, in every single elementary school, every high school, art is a requirement. I guarantee there's a lot of people that just don't have a talent for art, but they take art. Well, we need to be doing the same thing to compete. And in order to bolster those diversity statistics that we want and have well-rounded atmospheres and create the competence, we really need to advance our curriculum and our thought process to get everybody up to speed.
Yeah, that's a fascinating way to think about it is the efforts have been, and when you step back and think about it, the efforts have been top down, but there's so much more opportunity bottom up. And somewhat related, I met someone recently who he's a student at, I think it was Indiana University. And he said, I'm the head of the fintech club. I was like, oh, cool. There's a fintech club there. And he's like, yeah, we have 250 members. I said, well, is there a curriculum? Can you get a degree in fintech? He goes, oh, no, we're just a club. Come again? That doesn't make sense, right? Anyway, I mean, it's a different thing than what you're saying, but in a lot of ways, go from those high school days and then let's transfer that to college. And then we think about our industry. You can't even get a degree at some places in fintech. And it's such a powerful...
It's nuts. I'll tell you what is, while we're on subjects of rants. So you know what is crazy? It's like, okay, we have people graduating from high school. It should be that when you graduate from high school, you need to be prepared to actually go to work. Instead, they're only getting prepared to go to college. And the world is changing. We have kids graduating from high school today that don't know how to use Excel. Literally, they don't know how to use Outlook. They know how to use PowerPoint. But if I think about it, I'm like, is there any job today that anybody would get that doesn't involve an email application, understanding email etiquette, and Excel? Probably not. And some of these most basic core skills are not even being taught to these guys. And then the subject of computer science, it's such an elementary subject, but man, it actually would expose so much interest. It would give people a great foundation so that whatever job they get, they could learn analytics, they can understand how things work. It just creates a nice platform. And you see this as a very required curriculum in all the other countries. And these are other countries that, by the way, have massively different diversity statistics. They have women that are in technology. There's a terrific amount of engagement that is very, very diverse. And I would say, if we look at that, this is the key differential.
Yeah, I would totally agree with you. Well, let's circle back to the LIFT program and women specifically. If you could provide women in payments or fintech just one piece of advice, what would that be?
I would say if I could provide women in payments or fintech one piece of advice, I would say don't be afraid of failure. I think too oftentimes we hold ourselves back because we're so afraid of failing. And I think we need to recognize failure is finite. It's never going to last forever. And you have to fail in order to succeed. Actually, success is really a lot of failures because it's about trial and error and learning and progressing. And so don't get so concerned and don't lose your confidence because you failed. Actually have more confidence because you tried and you're learning. And that's what progress is all about.
I love that. I recently saw something that said, it was talking about what's the one thing that millionaires do, and not that success is judged on money, but that was the article. And they said they're not afraid to ask. It's that fear of failure kind of that you're speaking to is don't be afraid to fail, but don't be afraid to ask.
Right. Just don't be afraid.
Right. Just sum it up. Don't be afraid. Absolutely. Oh, so this has been a great conversation. Can you please share with our audience how people can get involved in the LIFT program?
Yes. So you can, of course, go to our website. And then I think we have a special link as well. So if you go to fi911.com/lift-mentorship, you can sign up right there.
Okay, great. Well, Monica, is there anything else you'd like to cover on this topic before we wrap up the show?
I've probably talked way too long as it is. It's always great talking with you, catching up, and love the subject. And thank you again for having me.
Absolutely. Thank you for being on the show. I really appreciate your time. So thank you very much.
No problem. All right. Enjoy the conference.
Thanks. And to all you listeners out there, I thank you for your time as well. And until the next story.
Thank you for joining us this week on the Leaders in Payments podcast. Make sure you visit our website at leadersinpayments.com, where you can subscribe to the show and where you'll find our show notes. If you enjoyed listening, please share on your social channels as well.